This is the Knilly and Pb podcast. In this weekly series, we're reading Twilight because Knilly's never read it, and Pb wants to send memes. I'm Knilly.
I'm Pb.
And today we're here to talk about chapters 9 through 11 of New Moon. Wow. Some exciting stuff, mostly in the form of the realization of feelings, the friend zoning of others, a weird stomach virus, and we finally find the meadow, and we come upon some other realizations. That's just to sum it all up in a can. Pb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well today. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about some Twilight.
Yeah.
Also, I want to start off today
Oh, sure.
by saying
Mm-hmm.
I did not know those Valentine hearts candies had a name. I had to look up.
Didn't know that either. I called them candy hearts for a long time.
Same.
I didn't realize they were conversation starters.
I was just like, I had to put down the book and Google conversation hearts. I'm like, what does that mean? I like in context later on, it tells you like a cheap 50-cent candy box. And like there you probably could have like sussed it out. But like I had to look it up because I was like, what the heck is a conversation heart? That's wild to me that that's what they're called. I get it makes sense, but I kind of hate it.
Yeah. Like, we couldn't call them like Valentine's Day candy or just like
Love hearts. I don't know, anything
like
really.
cute hearts for you. I don't know.
Yeah, flirting hearts. I don't know, like literally anything they could have been called. Aside from conversation hearts is just such a formal thing for something I've only ever interacted with as a child.
Right.
So like I don't know how I feel about that. But that was like right at the beginning of the chapter and it really set the tone for me.
It's really funny because now that you say it out loud, it reminds me of this game I just picked up, which I actually have right here. I've been meaning to integrate this as part of my stream, but it's called It's Kind of a Funny Story.
Oh, I love that.
It might be backwards for people, I'm sorry. But essentially it's like you take turns telling stories and then people vote on if it was a cool story or not.
Oh,
So like
that's neat.
My one gripe with this game, do not like the card quality. It gets stuck very easily. Oh well, that's not even like a good example of like one of these is like, wow, I picked all these like little mini game ones where it's like everybody answers or point the finger at someone versus like the general card, which is like story card, 2 points. Tell us about a time your first impression of someone was incorrect, and then you tell a story, which is kind of cute. So there's some fun stuff in there, but I don't think I would get that sort of like jump starter of a conversation from a candy heart that says "too cute" or "you're great"
or hi. Like it really just I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like I was really thrown for a loop for like probably the first half of this chapter, just being like conversation hearts. Who calls them that?
Right?
Like who named them?
What if you had to write a conversation heart and knowing you like the size and how many characters kind of generally fit? What would you write on one?
Smile.
No way! I'm like, she's gonna say smile. Oh, read you like a book there.
Oh man, it's the way that I thought of a lot of things, but they wouldn't fit. Because my first thought, my first thought was sucks to suck. That was my very first thought.
You could, it would be SUX to SUX.
Yeah, yep. Sucks to suck.
Oh my god.
No. Tell us in the comments, what conversation would you make?
Yeah, what conversation heart would you make? And it has to be like what? Like no more than like 8 characters, I feel like.
And they're like super tiny like
super
that.
Tiny.
Oh my gosh.
Conversation hearts aside, I guess that is a great segue. We kind of start back up on Valentine's Day essentially because like Bella manages like time. You know what they say? Time flies when you're having fun, and she's been having so much fun hanging out with Jacob. So much fun.
Yeah. And also, I think it's very funny. I mean, it's very emphasized through this entire series. Especially, books 1 through 3. How Bella is terrible at setting boundaries.
Yeah.
She is quite genuinely the worst at it. And I think it's just very funny to me, that she's just a teenager, just figuring it out, just trying to figure out, like, how do I say no with my friend without him, leaving and being mad at me? Because I feel like that's very relatable for a lot of people
Oh, for
who
sure.
have, uh,
Problem saying
uh
no.
yeah, or just like a male friend that, like, clearly has, like, a crush on you, but,
Mm,
like, you don't reciprocate that at all, and, like, you've tried to make it clear, but you don't wanna, like, cause any drama in the friend group about it, and
yeah.
they're also, like, a fun person to be around, so you don't wanna, like, you're not exactly leading them on, but, like, you wouldn't like to enjoy their company for a little longer before inevitably it all implodes. Because 'cause you're just like, "Maybe it won't, maybe he'll catch the hint, and he'll stop doing this." And then they never do.
Nope.
You know? Just so you know, if you're out there dealing with a person like this, they're never gonna stop it. So, cut it off now before,
Yeah.
like before, things escalate. But yeah,
Unless you have really good communication skills to
yeah,
actually like compromise and work out your friendship.
but it's, two-way street. If they don't wanna hear it, they don't
Yeah,
wanna hear it.
for sure. Um, but yeah, it's Valentine's Day, and Jacob is trying to be smooth and get a date. But Bella's kind of like, yo, you want to just like make a group and go, like, I promise I go to the movies, but you can come with. And then Bella has to contrive putting a group together all to go to the movies. Um, Gets Mike on board because Mike is down for anything Bella wants to do, even though he thought it might, like, she did emphasize group, but lo and behold, the group ends up falling apart to various reasons or other.
Yeah. It's
Like
like
being sick, other date stuff, all like one of the lines she has, like, yeah, it's like their 3-week anniversary or something, and I'm like, hello, or 3-month or something.
yeah, I saw it's like Jessica is still annoyed with Bella and Lauren,
Yeah,
is obviously an asshole, so she's not going. And it's
yeah,
just like Angela and Ben, was it? I think we're the only ones that were gonna end up going.
yeah. And then Angela gets sick with like a
A
flu
stomach
thing that
bug.
seems to be going around,
Mhm.
maybe.
Well, I mean, definitely going
Bell,
around because
yeah,
Mike knew 2 guys who had it, who were out of
right,
school that day, and Angela got it that night or that morning, and then Mike got it, and then Bella got
yeah,
it.
yup, everyone got it. It's just so funny because I highlighted here. What was this? I worded my reply carefully. I was thinking of getting a group. I emphasized the word together to see crosshairs. I'd done my homework this time, even reading the movie spoilers to be sure I wouldn't be caught off guard. My girl looked up the content and content warnings so she wouldn't get triggered about her ex relationship. Not all of the gore and violence in this movie.
Yup,
Which
yup.
she wanted.
Exactly. No romance plots, only death. Which, you know what?
Yup.
Good for her.
Good for
I
her.
also like the line a couple of lines later where Mike was trying to convince her to watch something else, and Bella was
Oh,
just,
yeah.
like, insistent that they watch that movie, and Bella said Mike looked away with a look like, "Maybe she is crazy after all," look, and I'm like, "Damn,
Yeah.
but you still pursuing her, man."
Yeah.
You like him a
Mike's
little
still
crazy
into that,
apparently.
though. Mike is still into that.
Yeah. I was just like I also really like the back and forth between Jacob and Bella, where when they finally, all meet up, and they're about to go off, to the movies, Jacob's like, "I remember him. It's the guy who thought you were his boy or he was your boyfriend." Bella's like, "Well,
Mhm.
some people are hard to discourage." Jacob, "Then again, some persistence pays off." Bella, "Yeah, most of the time it's just annoying though."
It's so
Like
good.
relatable,
Damn.
great lines, very relatable.
Yep. Some of the most like actual like IRL things that I would hear someone's like usually Bella's conversations are awkward. This is the most like down to earth real one that I think so far when handling boys that can't get a hint.
Yeah, I feel like in your writing skills is superseded by just the real life experience of this happening. Like I could see this conversation. In fact, I feel like I have had this conversation before.
For sure.
And so it's like even if it was even more poorly written, I'm just like, no, this is it. This is the exact emotion. This is the exact like thing that they because it's always just like, oh, it's like Bella's like, yeah, some people are hard to discourage, and it's like, then again, persistence pays off. Bella's just like, no, it's annoying. It's what it is.
Now, if you didn't hear me, I said that's what you're doing.
Let me. Can anybody there? Anybody? That's what you're doing.
Attention, Jacob Black, paging Jacob Black so that you hear this message from Bella Swan. Lay off.
Oh my gosh. I also love that. I also everyone was invited and everyone bailed, right? Except Mike and Jacob.
Yeah.
And all I was thinking during that moment after Ben called, was this would never happen nowadays because group chats exist. If like this is how the group chat went, where everyone was just dropping out, and you had no good reason not to go, you would still drop out. You would just be like, nah, I'm good.
No.
And this would have been canceled before Mike even got there. Like this would have been canceled last night.
Yeah.
And not when everyone was like everyone. The two boys and Bella were ready to go. And I like that Mike tried to postpone it.
Yeah.
But like Jacob immediately posted up all macho like, was just like, it's like, I'm still down to go. I mean, if you want,
you can stay, Mike.
It's like, if you want to go for it, but I'm still down. I want to go watch this movie. And Mike's like, no, like, I'll go. Yeah, let's go. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it just shows how like the guys that Bella is hovering around for her conscious or not romantic interests versus the guys that want to get with her. They just are so much more suave when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it's not suave. They're just like so much more like on it because their attention to detail.
Yeah.
Because he does like this, like he does some other stuff along the way too with Mike about like the music thing in the car. Where Mike's like, oh, why don't, like, he's also just trying to be all up in, like, Bella's piece here in the car because he's in the back seat. Like, leaning on his hand, leaning on the seat, trying to, like, you know, let's get our cheeks to touch. But it's like, oh, man, can we get some music? And Jacob's like, no, Bella doesn't like music. And he's like, she doesn't?
Especially in the way of just, like, I feel like it was a little bit like, oh, man, I should have known that. But also, like, who doesn't like music? Like, what? What do you mean you don't like music? Please elaborate. Like, yeah, I find it annoying. And I'm like, that's a line. We both know it, but like, pop off.
Yeah, we know why you don't like music now.
Yeah.
You used to at least enjoy some music, even if it's Chopin.
Yeah. It's like, what a ride too. Because like Mike was all huffy the entire time. But also, I'm assuming now that we know that he was sick, that like it was also exasperated by him feeling, like a little poorly. Like it just got him in more like angry mood, more huffy mood.
Yeah.
Also,
I totally can feel that too with like the opportunity to hang out with friends, but then you're feeling sick and you're like, oh, I don't want to miss out on like this, like even just on a friends level, not even just like a crush level. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I really wanted to hang out with you, but I am sick today and I cannot function. It feels so bad on both ends, even though it's not your fault that your body is rebelling against you in this moment.
Yeah. It's, man, like a lot of little moments here with Jacob and Mike that are really, I was really like, wow, okay. All right, men, chill.
I know.
But I thought it was hilarious that Jacob isn't old enough to watch this movie himself.
I know. My God, he's 16. Is it rated R? Like, I sometimes forget that rated R is like 17 plus, right? Like,
yeah, or like Yeah, and you need like an adult. They were pretty cool at my theater to just like let you through if you were like with
Yeah.
a group of friends. But like, that's so funny that he slipped her $10 because he couldn't. He wasn't old enough to watch the movie. It was
What a baby.
so funny. There's a lot of little moments through this that like just highlighted Jacob's immaturity. And
Yeah.
also which to me just re-emphasized that Jacob is young and younger than Bella. Because even she
Yeah.
said, like, oh, unless you think it would be too boring to hang out with a bunch of seniors.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just like, I was just like, man, we're really just emphasizing that Bella is much, much older than Jacob.
Yeah.
I mean,
In quotes. In reality, it's like 2 years, which isn't that much, but like it's a lot during these like very developmental times in your life.
yeah, like a 16-year-old versus an 18-year-old lifetime difference
Yeah.
at that point.
Which was also funny, that whole thing where like she's trying to convince Mike to go, and then Mike seemed really like miffed that there was like other boys coming. It's like, oh yeah, no, they're like, oh, that's the person you like do homework with every day. She's like, yeah, it's more like tutoring though, because they're only sophomores, and he seemed to perk up at that, being like, oh, okay, so they're not competition.
Yeah, because usually you'd be like, oh, like not only do I have seniority over them, I'm much cooler than a 16-year-old.
Yeah. What dweebs? Am I right?
It's like I have a job and like
Yeah.
I look cool. That was just so
Gosh.
funny to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, they went to go watch the movie.
And Jacob was laughing because he's like, "This is ridiculous." It's like it seems like it's one of those like ridiculously violent movies for the sake of being violent for comedy, because it's like
Yeah.
would never happen, um, while still kind of trying to take itself seriously. It seemed like, but at the same time, I don't know what this movie Crosshairs is, but a lot of people were dying. A lot of people were getting murdered in good old American movie violence.
It's like probably just like a B-rated slasher or something like that.
Yeah.
With especially like in early 2000s, like
Mm-hmm.
probably like terrible CGI. If and no CGI actually, it's probably just all practical effects. So very
Bad practicals. Yeah.
yeah, just ketchup instead of like or like water that's just tinted red instead of making any efforts into consistency.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny.
And it was so cringe because Bella obviously was in the middle of Jacob and Mike because they can't stand each other. Um they both had their arms on the armrest, palms out. So Bella would have to first of all, I get so angry when people on both sides of me have their armrest.
Oh my god.
Drives me insane.
Freaking on the plane, if you only take up one, and it's the one to your left,
Yeah.
because the person on in the inside does not really have a right side one. In fact, the right side person has like the most armrests.
Yeah, it's just like, what is happening right now? Like, why would you do this? And so, like, I read that. I did the first time I read it, I didn't even process that it was like palms out on top of the armrest, which is so uncomfortable looking and feeling. But
Yeah.
I was just livid at the fact that they both took up her armrest. I was just like, how dare they? She is.
Yeah. And I love the way that Bella handled it, because she noticed and she's like, I'm gonna just do one of these, and then I hope their arms fall asleep.
I would too. I would be like, fuck that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even. I'd be more aggressive than that. I usually push an arm off. I'm like, hey, like, use your other
Yeah.
arm. But that was
I'm not so
cringe.
direct, but I would do this thing. What I would probably do is like take my cup and like aim for the cup holder, but like hit their arm, like, oh, sorry, and then they'd have to move. That's my passive aggressive move.
If you ever needed to know the difference in personality between me and Knilly, that's it right there in a nutshell.
Push off versus like a oops.
Yup. But yeah, that was so cringe. And then poor
Oh my
Mike
gosh.
started feeling poorly.
Started really feeling it.
Yeah, and then just ran to the bathroom. And yeah, poor guy.
It was nice that they walked out as well.
Yeah.
To like check on their like on Bella's friend, really, but like Jacob offered to come along with, and Jacob was like, it's a bad movie anyway.
Yeah, it's like you really know how to pick him, Bella. That was
Yeah.
terrible. It's like I hated what Jacob said though after they checked up on Mike. where he was
Oh my
like,
god.
"What a marshmallow! You should hold out for someone with a stronger stomach, someone who laughs at gore that makes weaker men vomit." I'm like,
That's
first,
that early aughts machismo.
yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, not only that, but that's straight up teenage boy
Yeah.
mentality. Like, oh, I'm the strong one. That made you feel weak. I'm like, what a horribly misogynistic thing to say. And also
Mhm.
a prime example of toxic masculinity. Like, it doesn't make you stronger or weaker. It just means one
Yeah.
of you is more accustomed to saying blah.
Yep. Yup. Oh
And
my gosh. So they ended up bailing early. Very smart of Jacob to get that empty popcorn bucket as a barf bag, though, on the
yeah.
car.
Although,
Oh, which, by the way, he finished his car.
yeah, he finished the rabbit. It's
He
done.
finished
He
the
did
rabbit.
it.
He did it. What? Bella was so proud.
Yeah. Although not to skip over, they had a very important conversation in
Oh, they
between A
did.
and
They did have a
B.
very fun conversation.
They finally had the "you like me, right?" So it's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "But that's all." "Yes." "Okay. That's okay. As long as you like me the best and you think I'm good looking, sort of, I am prepared to be annoyingly persistent." And Bella, like, sets her boundaries. She says, "I'm not gonna change." And
Yeah.
then Jacob says, "I'm still the other one. Isn't it?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." First of all, worst thing you could, if you're ever pursuing a person, I feel like this is one of the worst things you could ever say to someone who's very clearly said no to you. Over the entirety of the friendship, of just turning you down gently to not seem mean, and just to be like, "You still like me though, right?" It's like, "Yeah, but not that way." "No, it's okay. So long as you still like me, there's a chance." I'm like, "No, that's not what that means. That's not what that
Yeah.
means."
Yeah.
I'm
It means that she likes you. It doesn't mean that she's going to be with you. You can still like someone beyond a level of friendship as a like deeper platonic relationship, but not have to be with them. The what in the monogamy?
exactly. It's just, oh my god. And so, oh man, that annoyed the hell out of me. But because of that, they uh they set that boundary at long last, even though directly, right? As soon as they were finally alone, they directly addressed it. And Jacob apparently has this terrible habit of holding Bella's hand. And although she
Yeah.
likes it, but she doesn't want to have that context on it. And she told Jacob, like, it's like, we can still be friends. But I don't, we shouldn't do that as in holding hands. And it's
Yeah.
like, why not? And it's like, because it means something different to me than it does to you. And it's like, well, that seems like a me problem, doesn't it? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, yeah, it is a you problem.
It's like, I mean, sure. I mean, at this point, Bella has done everything she could to set this boundary. Although a little
Yeah,
later,
short of like cutting off their friendship, but like, yeah.
yeah, which is what I would usually recommend in a situation like this. But,
Yeah.
it's a unique situation for Bella.
Yeah. Cause she's feeling better, at least like I think she compared herself to a house being a fixer-upper house being re-renovated after it had gone through some shit, and she only has the entryway fixed right
Yeah.
now. The rest of the house is not stable, it's not doing well. But at least right now she is happy enough to go. She says she's taking it a day, the present. She's like always in the present, not in the past, not in the future, and she's just doing it a day at a time.
Yeah.
Which honestly, really healthy for like going over this grief. Like that kind of mentality. The way she's kind of been using Jacob, and then Jacob is like it's a little bit leading Jacob on, but also she set her boundaries. Like it's a weird mix and gets really messy in this part of it. So like Jacob has been helping her. Their friendship has been helping her heal, which is nice to see. But at least like that surface part, so she can be a functioning, like she can like be she's not like a functioning member of society, but like be part of society with her friends and like not be worried for. So, I don't want to say that she Bella doesn't want to make her friends worry, even though like she doesn't necessarily owe them that. But like I get it. So yeah, it's been nice. The relationship has been good, but now that it's starting to creep up to here, Bella needs to figure out how to pump the brakes, but she
Yeah.
can't do that because it feels too nice for her.
And like, she even like she acknowledges all of the situation. Like she knows what's happening
Yeah.
on. Like she knows that like she's leading the boy on accident. She doesn't mean to do it. She doesn't want to do it. But like being away from Jacob or being with Jacob is the only thing holding her together, like you said. She even says a little bit later on is if he felt any hope at all that this could turn into something other than friendship, then I hadn't been clear enough. And I'm just like, at a certain point, it's not you not being clear enough. It's Jacob not accepting your
Yeah.
boundaries, like not
Yeah.
accepting what you said, and accepting it as fact. He's just holding on to some blind faith that he will be what you want at a certain point. Which again, also a very teenage thing. It's like, oh no, baby, I can change for you. Like I could be what you want. I could be that. I'm like, no, fam, no. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's like essentially you're still the same person, especially like this kind of friendship when like
Yeah.
you know them so well. And obviously Jacob has like really demonstrated he knows who Bella is. Um
Hmm.
and knows like and is being a really good friend. And same thing with Bella and Jacob, where Bella knows like the small things about Jacob also. When you're that close with somebody, um, you know everything about that person, like their essence. So you know if you're attracted to that or not. And if you are, you are. If you aren't, you aren't. There's no changing it. Like they know who you are at that point. Just accept it, Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob, gosh. No, it's no. It's a no from Bella.
uh, and he was apparently just running really hot the entire time they were hanging out together. Bella
Yeah.
said he felt like he had always, I think it been mentioned even before this chapter that he like ran hot. He was always very warm.
Yeah, he had a
Um,
warm body.
yeah. And, especially compared to Bella, who's always very anemic and cold.
Yeah.
But
And then
like,
also her comparing it to Edward.
yeah. So obviously everyone's gonna be hotter. But yeah, he was even really hot to the touch in the car with all the windows open, with poor Mike in the back with his popcorn bucket just praying.
Yeah. Oh man. I think before we get into like the next part, so like, or I guess before we get into the next chapter, because for this chapter pretty much ends with like Bella getting home, being like, oh god, I also feel sick. And then then also Jacob getting sick. So everyone's sick now. Everyone is sick.
Yeah.
Everyone's nauseous. At least on the surface, that's what's happening. Mike ended up getting home okay and all of that. So everyone's sick. But I wanted to mention like beforehand, like the beginning of this chapter kind of opened with Bella being like, yeah, I'm getting better at the bike, but it's not hitting the adrenaline spikes anymore because I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. It's
So I have to find something else to do that is scary. Like, Bella, chill. That's really cool. You're getting better at the bike, though. I'm really proud of you.
I mean,
I wish I could ride a motorcycle.
right? It's like, I mean, we're still at the same point where, I mean, nothing has changed for Bella. Like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
Jacob has been like helping her out, but like, you know, she's still in a lot of pain about the entire cult. Like, her best friend and her boyfriend, who she as essentially was her husband in her mind, without the vows.
Yeah.
It was death don't do us part. Parted from her before death, and so it has been a rough one for her. And she's just, I mean, she's essentially dealing with it by not dealing with it. And obviously, if the moment that a distraction is gone, it's gonna pop up again. It's like, hello,
Yeah.
it's me. All the problems you
It's
hid
your
behind the
boy.
closet. So yeah, she like we've gone through like 200 something pages. She still hasn't dealt with it. I mean, she's dealt with it by the fact that she's no longer catatonic. So at least that's a little bit of progress. But that's about it. She's still
Yeah,
chasing that like I want to hear his voice, even if it's a false memory. I want to
for sure.
have it, hold on to it because it's safe, as you find out later on.
Yeah. Sven, we're going back into those memories. So the next chapter is called The Meadow. On top of motorbike learning weekends, homework days, Jacob and Bella have been doing that like grid method of hiking to find this space, the meadow that Edward first brought her to in Twilight. where he was sparkled like all vampires do, I guess. So they've been looking for it. The beginning of this, though, a little bit opens with Jacob hasn't been feeling well a long time. She's kind of been calling Billy, asking like, what's up? He's like, oh, he's got mono, which I'm like, oh, typical of the early aughts. You know?
Who didn't? Who didn't,
Yeah,
you know,
right?
that had mono?
Yeah, and like how many actually had mono, you know? Or was it just an excuse?
We'll never know.
We'll never know. You know what's wild? You never hear about it as much when you're older. I don't know if it's like, I don't know much about mono, to be quite honest.
I have not. I think it's just less rampant than it is when you're a bunch of teenagers that are just hooking up, kissing everybody. And then in adulthood, where like people still do that, but I feel like you don't have energy. If you're feeling sick, you're gonna stay home and you're just gonna like mope. Like you're not a kid with
we know
infinite
our
energy.
limits now.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid, like being sick is merely an inconvenience. Being an adult and being sick is just like, all right, well, I'm out for the count. I'm just gonna, no matter how young you are, like yours is just like, I don't get paid enough to work while I'm sick. So
for sure.
But yeah, he's has mono, no visitors. Charlie's being like, don't pester them,
bother
Bella.
them.
And there was a line that she said, and it's like, Charlie was just like, go hang out with your other friends. Like, let Jacob breathe for a second. And Bella was like, I smiled and nodded as if I cared what my other friends thought. And I read it as if I cared about my other friends.
Yeah,
which
I read it that way too.
Like same difference.
Bella.
And, also, I just want to say, because this is gonna come into my VIP and worst of the week. Charlie, after Bella got sick, Charlie.
Oh my gosh!
left.
Like, do you need anything? No.
It's like Charlie left. Like she woke up at 4:30, like going to the bathroom to get sick, and she just stayed there for the entire day. And as someone who has dealt with the stomach flu and stuff like that, it sucks. You feel awful. Like,
oh my god, so bad. I hate it.
You want nothing more than comfort for something that brings you comfort. And like, Charlie was just like, do you need anything? And Bella's like, no, because obviously Bella's the independent child who doesn't need nothing. And Charlie is the terrible dad who's just like, okay, if I don't know how to take care of you, then I'll go take care of me, I guess. I don't know.
Question mark.
And Charlie just leaves. Charlie leaves to go to work or something. I'm like, Charlie, you can't leave someone who is so obviously expelling all the nutrients from their body, unable to hold anything down. They need that.
Yeah, at least run out and get a Gatorade and then go to work.
Yeah, PbPlaysInside existed back then. Like, there's anti-nausea medicine. You're the sheriff. You're the chief. Go to the doctor. Go to the hospital and be like, hey, my daughter's sick with that flu thing that's going around. Like, can I get something for her? Like, literally, resources.
Anything else.
Everywhere. And Charlie's like, well, I'm going to leave while you've been like 8 hours on and off being sick just in the bathroom. I'll be back at the end of my shift, essentially. And then he comes back and does absolutely fuck all while Bella is still there doing the same thing.
Brings her to her bed and puts another water, and that's about it.
Yeah, like once you stop like being actively sick the entire night, I'm just like, Charlie, there's a million things you can do here, and you did literally none of them. -1 million from you, -1 million from Charlie. I just needed to say, because that's going to factor into my worst of the week.
Oh, for sure.
Also, I do have a mini story about, but I need Jacob now. Needed him like a drug. I saw a TikTok today or yesterday. Where this woman was in this relationship with her boyfriend back in high school, I assume, and she would constantly be quoting things from Twilight because it was big in that time, and like he hadn't watched it, so he wouldn't know. And recently, I'm assuming many years later, he messaged her and was like, "Hey, can I call you real quick?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" They ended on good terms. And he was
Yeah.
just laughing. Like he couldn't get words out. He was laughing so hard. And she was like, like, well, what's up? What's happening?" And he like laughed for probably a minute or two more. And as she's getting annoyed, he's just like, all he said was like, "Hey, yo, remember when we were in a relationship in high school?" She was like, "Yeah." She's like, and and he just like put out the phone to hear the TV, and it was the quote, "But Jacob needed him like a drug." And he just kept laughing, and she was like, "Oh no,
You're
my
watching
you're
Twilight.
watching Twilight, and you know that I'm so cringy, and I quoted all these Twilight things in a relationship." And that was the entire TikTok. I just got served it, and I read that, and I was like, "No, shut up. How did you know, algorithm?"
Exactly, these chapters. Holy shit. I love it. I love it so much.
Oh,
That's so funny.
oh, I just tell people
I think
that
if I
one.
was the person, if I was the girl in that scenario, I would probably just die on the spot. I could not live like my
Yeah,
life after that.
I was just like, girl, I don't know how to use.
We can't be friends anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's like, block number.
Never again. Ending on bad terms.
I don't. Have you told her do you still talk to that RPing friend that like gave you all those Twilight quotes?
No. I mean, okay, not quoting, but like the style of like the broodiness is the same. No, I haven't. I honestly, it was really funny because before we started the podcast, like way before, I remembered I was doing something, and I remember that like I checked on this person, like just to see like how they were doing or whatever, and it was just
Yeah.
like, oh, it was very funny that like now that I'm reading this, I'm like, I see everything. I see it all.
I thought of you when I saw that TikTok, and then when I remembered about it, I'm like, I wonder if Knilly's talked to her friend about it.
No, Peruski. If you're listening to this now, I'm not even gonna say a name.
You know who you are.
You know. If you know, you know.
Oh, I love that. We
Oh,
should have them on as a
God.
guest so they can tell us what they were
No,
thinking.
we should not. Absolutely fucking not. Absolutamente no.
I'll leave it in the comments, guys.
Do not murder your friend on this podcast.
But yeah, so it goes back. Charlie tells her about that, tells her to be friends, and also again, this reoccurring issue that like we've been hearing about bear issues and missing hikers once again pops up. In fact, Charlie is just like, "Hey, don't go into the woods because we're still getting a bunch of, reports about
two
this
people
bear."
went missing, I believe, over the weekend, and Charlie's been dealing with this at work.
Yeah,
too. Like he mentions, like in a later phone call, he's like, "I'm swamped."
Yeah, and so it's like, and for me, who had to do the reading to see where I was going to end these chapters, I knew what was coming up, and what the main conflict is in this story, and so reading this again is even more terrifying now, knowing what's out in the woods waiting for Bella. Like reading that,
Yeah.
I was just like, the mere idea of Bella being out in the woods is even more scary knowing now.
Which, by the way, she does do in the sky. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do math homework with Jessica today," and he's like, "Okay, don't go in the woods." Leaves her work. Bella proceeds to go on a hike. She says she's like, "Oh, I know enough how to do the grid thing. I think I can add like 2 more sections to this." When by the time Jacob decides to, honor me with his presence, we won't have lost progress.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, just like that, she runs into the meadow.
Yeah, it was the
Literally,
first line she goes through.
Yep, they were right there. She goes into like a whole, like she's pretty much about to start like crying and sobbing in the middle of this. She like falls to her knees, is remembering everything. And she's just having she's letting it happen because she like that's the reason why she wanted to find this place, but she's also like, man, it's a good thing I found this place without Jacob, or he'd be seeing me a mess right now.
Yeah, because like she wanted to go to the meadow because she wanted it was the last piece of Edward that she tangibly has is this meadow because he did everything in his power to get rid of anything that would remind her of him, but he can't get rid of nature. So
Yeah.
she wanted to go there and see if there was anything like and I don't even think she knew what she wanted. She just was hoping something would be there, whether it
Yeah.
was like a memory she could latch back onto or like
Or
I
even if
don't
it was real, she even mentioned she's like, I just wanted to make like she's like, I got here, like I was amazed at this place. Is like I was beginning to think it wasn't real because we
yeah.
couldn't find it.
Yeah, and it's just like she tangibly wanted something to come from being in the meadow. Maybe a sense of peace, maybe Edward, something. Something I don't even think she knew. And therefore getting there and it just being even a bleaker version of what she knew because she even said it looks way better with the sunlight streaming in. And
Yeah.
although it was a nice day, a fair day, it wasn't like the day she was there with Edward. Um and because of that, it just I don't know, I don't think it broke something in her, but I think it did cause her to have a bit of a breakdown emotionally
Yeah.
because, like, the last thing I had of Edward is now actually gone. There's nothing here. This pipe
Yeah.
dream I was holding on to is now gone. All I have of him are the voices in my head.
Yep.
Oh,
And she's there, and while it's like, oh, Edward has, the Cullens in general have disappeared from her life, not completely though. Dun dun dun. The figure's walking up to her, and she recognizes it as Laurent, chill guy that came with James, the mad hunter from book one.
can I read
Laurent.
the sentence they did in
Oh
Twilight?
yes, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
Because they're my favorite kind of sentences, the sequel sentences. Where it's Laurent had been one of James's coven when we'd first met him. He hadn't been involved with the hunt that followed, the hunt where I was a quarry, but that was only because he was afraid. And it goes longer, but that's all I wrote down.
Yeah, because he effed off to Alaska at the recommendation of Carlisle so that he can go hang out with these folks up there. Laurent being there was like, oh, it's just when I was reading it, I'm like, this is not gonna be good. But maybe it could be okay, but it's not gonna be good. And it's that like in a very cinematic way that really sinister. Oh yes, I'm having a very innocent conversation with you, but it's getting it's getting sharper and sharper, and he's getting closer. And she's like, oh crap! And while this danger is happening, the voices are triggering in her head, and like it legit has become so clear that she is addressing the voice. Like Edward says this in my head, like.
Mhm.
Like lie to him and like all this other stuff, like giving her like coaching her through this dangerous situation, which ends up not really working. Maybe if it wasn't for something else. We'll get to that in a second because he goes on to say like, oh yeah, like it's cool, they're great, but Victoria, the mate as they call it, of James, remember, is dead. The Cullens got rid of that one, where Edward got rid of him specifically. But Victoria was like, oh, called in a favor. And, I also sometimes, come down and cheat. So you smell real good and I'm going to drink your blood. That's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah, because he was out scouting. Like he came down here to scout for Victoria. But he wasn't necessarily out here scouting at the moment. He was just looking for a meal. He's just like, I'm sorry about this. I was actually out here looking for like some food and like you're the first person I come across. So like this isn't personal. And I promise I'll make it quick.
And better than if Victoria had found you. Sheesh.
Yeah, like Laurent has always been the more like
it is what it is.
Like he's always been like the more like down to earth one, I guess. Maybe is the best way to put it. Even when James was talking about his like old hunts, Lauren was always like,
Mm,
that's not for me. That's gross. And the same thing, he made that same disgusted like look and comments and disdain in his voice when he was describing like, oh yeah, at least it'll be better than what Victoria did. Um,
yeah.
and I was like, damn. And also I was, it was a very tense moment, but it was always really funny that Edward just kept growling in her head
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Lawrence as he got closer and closer. And it's like
Yeah.
the growling was so loud, it was shaking my head. It was hard to think. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I think she did a phenomenal job though, like prolonging the moment. Of,
Yeah, for sure. Like she's like, kept trying to like, I think the only thing that betrayed her was like her tone of voice. Like she was giving all the right words, I think, but she's like, oh, my voice was too high, or like whatever. Like she knew what she was criticizing herself as she was going, which is like, I need to stall somehow for something or someone. And lo and behold, the bears, in quotes, showed up. Turns out not to be bears. And we go into much detail of like, these are some big ass wolves and there's 5 of them.
mhm.
And Bella is like, oh my God, these wolves are going to eat me. I hope they eat Lauren first, then I can get away. But I'm the easier one to catch. They should totally come after me. If the wolves go after Lauren, they're not gonna win. Like she has this like she has it in her head that these are wolves and that's a vampire, and she knows that the vampires can take down bears, lions, tigers. Oh my! Like from the anecdotes of like Edward and the other Cullens. So she is just like, man, it would be real cool if these wolves can just chase them off from me, and I'm gonna get out of here. One of the wolves kind of gives her a look, and she's like, kind of reminded me of Jacob, and I'm like. Okay.
Well, it's like he had like intelligent eyes or something, is what she
Yeah.
said. And it's just
Yeah.
like the color of the pelt reminded her of Jacob, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Man, I'm so glad Jacob wasn't here. 'Cause at least only I have to die now."
Yeah.
I was like, "Damn."
The wolf's eyes were dark, nearly black. It gazed at me for a fraction of a second, the deep eyes seeming too intelligent for a wild animal. As it stared at me, I suddenly thought of Jacob, again with gratitude. And then she goes on to being like, oh, thank God he's not here and he won't die to a vampire or this wolves.
Yeah, because like, man, what a culmination of a moment. Because Bella, like, I cannot imagine being placed in a life or death situation while I'm mid breakdown, while I'm mid
Yeah.
having a mental breakdown, a mental, emotional, spiritual breakdown. And it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, Lauren, because like she got to the meadow, and I mean, she did, and she said, I guess I did get what I kind of wanted, a memory
Yeah.
of the past. Because, oh, it's Lauren. That's why she was so just like, oh my gosh, Lauren, what's up? Without
Yeah,
thinking
she was
about
so chummy.
yeah, without the fact that like, oh, this is a bad thing.
Smile. I forgot vampires are dangerous.
Yeah. And it's like I was living it's just like that oh, what is that quote from the Andre show of just like I was so I was so obsessed with the fact that I had apple juice. I forgot that racism existed. Like this is this is that.
What a quote.
Yeah, I forget his name. It's a guy from Broad City. The
Yeah.
comedian. He has this great little skit where he's in a grocery store and he's like, there's this awesome sale on apple juice, and he's like, yes, I got so much apple juice. And then this guy comes up to him and he thinks he's gonna ask about all this awesome apple juice he has. And then he makes like some sort of racist comment. And he's just like, oh, I was so happy about my apple juice for a moment. I forgot that racism existed. And I was like,
Oh
damn,
my
maybe
God.
that's not real. But like that's that sort of like moment of just like, oh, I was like
if I wasn't so happy to see a vampire, I'd forgot that vampires are dangerous.
yeah, it's like I forgot because I was too busy worrying about whether or not, that my vampires were gone. I forgot that bad vampires still exist. I'm like, Bella,
Yeah.
please.
She goes on later to be like, man, even though like I'm not seeing Jacob and I keep having these memories, at least like I can focus on trying to forget about bad vampires instead of trying to remember that they're the good vampires.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, okay.
And so this
That is one way to look at it, Bella.
yeah, like Bella, please. But like the thing that was jarring about the moment, aside from the entire moment, imagine like being mid breakdown a vampire you knew pops up, but like they've got those red blood eyes, and you're just like, ah, shit. And then a bunch of wolves come out behind you, and now you're stuck in the middle of just like, well, how am I gonna die here? Um, while you want to die, while you're feeling awful in mid breakdown. I can't imagine like the dissonance in your mind that is happening in that moment. But the thing that's jarring about the moment is that Lawrence, he looks scared. He even says something along the lines of like, I can't believe it. Like eyes wide, frightened, stepping backwards as these wolves uh start stalking forwards towards him, which is why everything that Bella is saying sounds like so real, and like she's just like, well, I guess, this is how I die, this is how it happens. Like, man, daydream.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be so cool if they could kill the vampire and then protect me? That'd be so, and then not eat me. That'd be cool, but like, that's never gonna happen. And- but
Reader,
like
it
Laura
happened.
runs. Yeah, Lauren like books it out of there, and the wolves,
Yeah.
they just start fucking booking it behind them.
Yeah.
And Bella, after a moment, fucking runs.
She takes advantage of that, which like, okay, good survival instinct. The one moment where it matters.
Yeah. And it's like, and she, not that it would matter between either of the two predators that she just encountered.
Yeah.
Like Lauren could catch her no problem. And so would wolves if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like she's just, honestly, great instincts, run away. But like it probably wouldn't help if they really were trying to kill you.
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying more like she took advantage of the scenario of like they were both distracted.
Yeah.
She ran
and fucking booked it.
Yeah.
Although it said like the few hours it took me to run back, I can't imagine.
Oh my god! Like, because she got lost because she was just. She said first she was focused on just running, and then she's like, I remembered I had a freaking compass. So
terrified the entire time, like adrenaline at max, like her hands shaking. She had to put the compass on the ground to be able to read it correctly. Several times as she ran back, and once she got in her truck, she fucking booked it.
Yeah.
She was like, we're going.
Yeah.
And she gets home and tells Charlie, and Charlie's already home because it took so long to get back.
Yeah, and Charlie is like, where'd you go? And then he's like, oh, she does realize like, oh, he probably called Jessica's family. It's like, oh, I went on a hike. She pretty much like kind of spilled the beans, but more so like, yeah, I went for a hike. I'm sorry, but also I ran into the wolves. They were a bear, but it's not a bear, it's wolves. And he's like, freaking wolves. It's like they were huge,
and like
though.
he immediately gets on the phone to the office and is just like sharing all this information.
Yeah,
because that's awful.
Yeah. Could you imagine like the source of your problem is not one bear but 5 large wolves?
Not only that, but your only daughter ran into them.
Yeah.
Like, and made it out alive. Like that's why Charlie wasn't even mad. He couldn't be mad.
Yeah.
Like at least she was there and alive, even though Bella tried to do the teenage thing of like truncating the lie of just or the truncating the truth. Like, oh yeah, I was only a little bit into the woods. I didn't go far, like hours of a hike as she did. And so
because she's like, hey, I don't want anyone to run into Laurent if he killed the wolves. Which we don't get a confirmed kill on Laurent with the wolves, so I don't want to say that like, it actually happened, that like her dream of like, oh, if these wolves could kill the vampire, but they're out of the picture, kind of.
Yeah, at least the wolves have corralled them out, because we don't know we know how fast the vampires are. Who knows how fast these very large wolves are?
These very large wolves.
And we enter chapter 11, Cult.
Yeah. Essentially, Jacob continues to be unreachable. Either they're not picking up their phone, but allegedly the phone line has been down, or it's Billy deflecting. And then her dad is like, don't bother them. They're probably really busy. There's a whole lot of like going back and forth in her plans. It's like, I'm going to go find him or whatever. And then Billy being like, don't like she even asked her dad to ask someone else about like what's going on down there, but she doesn't want to press that like edge further because she knows it'd be kind of annoying. She ends up like driving and trying to like, stake out Jacob's house, runs into Embry and confirm, and she kind of confirms this herself, but then really confirms it when talking with Embry that Jacob has essentially been recruited into Sam's cult.
Quill. He ran into Quill.
Quill, right, sorry.
Embry's already in the cult.
Yeah, Embry's already in the cult. Quill's the one she ran into. I confused them.
And
but
he was looking shook. He was looking like frightened, not only for like his friend, but for himself.
yeah, he's like,
He
I don't
was
want to be
like-
next. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're all so different now.
And like no one's saying a damn word about the
Mm-mm.
situation. So many people know what's happening and no one is saying a word. Because at this point, we're all under the impression this is a cult. Like what has happened is they have taken him and brainwashed Jacob.
Yeah.
Because he's not been talking to Bella. Like he didn't even call Bella when he got home
Yeah.
to say like, hey, I'm safe. Bella had to call him and be like, hey, is Jacob okay? And she's still under the impression that he's sick because
Yeah.
that's
He
what
had
everyone
mono.
has told her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like when Jacob called, he said like, yeah, my entire body hurts. Like I'm in so much pain. And Bella's like, oh man, that sucks. Like I've also been through the ringer, but like only a few more hours. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, and Jacob did not seem like he felt it was going to be a couple more hours.
No.
He definitely had like this almost defeated tone in his voice.
Yup.
And yeah, Bella, like you said, finally decides that, you know what, it's only a quick trip. Victoria probably won't even go, won't even track me to La Push.
Yeah. She's gonna
It'll be
wait till
fine.
night. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, and so yeah, they end up at Billy's house and she's, posts up in her truck until
Till he jumps
they
up.
show up.
A little before this is that also her dad mentioned that he saw Jacob and he tried to wave, but like Jacob looked different and was having an argument with some folks. But like, yeah, I did see them here. I thought you said they were going to like Port Angeles. It's like, oh, then maybe like we're picking up friends or whatever. Like Bella was trying to make up like normal people excuses as to why he was there and not there, trying to be like, he's still my friend, he's just sick and doing other things, but oh, maybe he's clearing the air with Embry or whatever. So like,
Because last we left off, they went to the movies. Jacob said, hey, I want to be with you. And Bella's like, no, smile.
yeah.
And Bella was afraid the entire time that he was just going to be like, let's not be friends anymore then.
Yeah.
And she just thinks that this is like her worst, the worst outcome, that like he decided, yeah, I'm not
Gonna be your
not
friend
anymore.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm done with you leading me on.
Yeah, so for her, that's worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is he is like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And I can't be with you anymore.
Yeah.
But like it's gone on to a point that she needs to have this conversation face to face.
Yeah.
Like you can only do this over the phone with mediators in between so long. You
Yeah.
have to do it in person. Please never break up with someone over the phone. That sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, he shows up with the crew.
With the crew, Sam Yuli and the crew, and she gets pissed. And Jacob has become even more more weirdly like broader, muscular, shaved his hair, like got really. She's like, this doesn't look like Jacob, and also like not the same sunny disposition that he usually has. Like
No.
Steph Meyer really like emphasized like how sunny, how warm, how happy he is in order to like really foil with this moment here that it's like, this is not Jacob. What the hell did Sam Yuli do to you?
Yeah, like gone from that beautiful long hair to now very short, covering his head like inky gloss, like black satin. He looked
Yeah.
wider, shoulders thicker, hands enormous and veiny, and just looking dark and brooding with a lot of resentment in his face, a darkness now. She described it, Bella, as like my son had imploded.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, she's pissed. She's angry.
Yeah. And it comes down to a whole lot of nothing being said on Jacob's end because me and PB here, us the readers, we know he's hiding his monstrosity form, his werewolfness. But he cannot tell Bella, much like certain someone couldn't talk about being a vampire for a long while. So we've been through this dance before, but Bella is very much convinced because of all the precedents that has been set before that Sam Yuli is to blame. But Jacob essentially is like, we can't be friends anymore. Don't contact me anymore. Like, and he kind of brings up the sore spot of like, this is like, he like, she keeps being like, talk to me, tell me about it. It's like, you don't want to hear it. And he's like, no, I do. It's like, well, it has all to do with the Cullens. And he's like, what? No way. So she's kind of in denial with that too. But he lays it on. He's like, you want to know? Here's what it is, but you're not gonna believe me. Even though he doesn't fully explain, but
no, because like he's talking in between lines a lot here. He says like, I was so off base with what's actually happening. Like Sam isn't the bad guy. He's not, he's helping me. And Bella's just like, what happened to my friend? Like, who are you? I don't understand. Explain to me what happened. That's all she wants. She wants to understand why he's undergone this huge of a change.
Yeah, not just in his attitude, but in like also his physical self.
Yeah, attitude, his beliefs. Like it feels like everything has changed about him in like under a month. And that's why she even says, like, how could the Cullens possibly be about about any of this? What is this? If they left more than half a year ago now, how could they possibly be the cause of the situation? And like Jacob even says we were friends. And it's just like, and then Edward's voice comes back. And Edward says, don't push him. Give him a chance to calm down. And Bella was really confused because this is her friend.
Yeah.
Like little Jacob, her friend, the person who always made her laugh and smile and feel great. And suddenly this voice that only pops up when she's in danger is suddenly telling her, like, this is, essentially this is a dangerous situation. Let him calm down. And she really doesn't. She kind of keeps going at it, although less poignant. And Jacob, because she brings up Quill. He's like, I saw Quill. He's worried, Sam, or Jacob. He's concerned. He thinks he's next. And Jacob punches a tree and it snaps in half.
Yeah. Like, oh, big strong.
It's like it wasn't a big tree. It was more of a sapling, but still it's like fucking
punch a tree.
Broken in half. And I think this really emphasizes like a huge shift in Jacob more than anything else, just this moment, because he looks like real. I can't think of the word terrorized by himself almost.
Yeah.
Because just thinking about Quill in the situation, and he's just like, nothing should happen to him. It should be over now. I should, stuff like this. And it's just like, what is happening, Jacob? And he won't explain anything. And it's something he says, like you said, we can't be friends anymore. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And
because he's like, I'm not as good as you thought I was. Because now he's also taking into like, oh, he's internalizing the monster part too. But not telling Bella that because it's a literal monster part.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not who I was before. Like, I can never go back now. And and essentially breaks up with Bella. Which they put it in those terms. Bella's just like, I could, maybe something can happen. Like, just let me give it a chance. Like, maybe, like she's desperately trying to hold on to any thread of her friend to convince him, like, don't do this. Stop falling down this cult that you're in now. Like, this isn't you, Jacob. Obviously, you're worse off than you were before. Like, you're no longer who you were. What happened to you? What traumas have you gone through that this is where you are now? And just like that, another breakup. And she describes it as another hole has opened up now from Jacob,
her heart is
worming her way in. And Charlie's pissed.
A little bit beforehand too, or I mean, maybe it's like during this conversation, but like Bella does mention to her dad, like, Sam Yuli is like not cool. Like, Jacob was been scared. Like, no, but he's like, no, Sam Yuli's great. What a great kid. What a great man.
Yeah, because that's what everyone says. Everyone's like, yeah, he's a nice young man. He's doing a lot of stuff for the community. And because Charlie is concerned, and then it's like, before this situation arises,
Yeah,
But
but
now
then she
she brings
comes
it up
home.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes
And she
home.
looks like a
Billy
ghost.
called, being like, "Oh, Billy said you'd be coming back." Um, but yeah, Charlie's angry. Like, how dare? Because like Billy essentially is like, yeah, like he mentioned that you and like you being Bella and Jacob had a fight, and that you'd be coming home, and what happened? And she's just like, she kind of explains the situation, because Billy kind of made it like Bella's fault. But Bella's like, that's not what happened. And Charlie, thank God, believes his daughter.
Yeah.
And calls Billy back to get more clarification on the situation. Um, and they get mad at each other. And Billy and Charlie are really good friends. Like, they are yelling over the phone at each other because now Charlie is super concerned. Like, whatever your son did or said to my daughter is going to really fuck with her emotional and mental health. And like, I need to know, because if he does anything to her again, I'm like not gonna be happy with you.
Yeah, because like she came back, and when she came home, Charlie looked at her and she had the same look in her face that she did when
Yeah.
Edward went away. It's the
Yeah.
same like ghost like numb look on her face of just like, oh, my entire world has just been rocked and I don't know how to cope. And Charlie's like, I just got her back, Billy. Like,
Yeah.
we can't do this. And it's like, we've been friends for a long time, but like, if anything happens to Bella, and he ends off saying like, yeah, I'm gonna be watching those boys. If they step 1 foot out of line,
Yeah.
and it was like, damn, Charlie, stand up. Like +10. I'll give you +10 for this one,
Yeah,
Charlie.
no, like this was like a really good moment for me, because like usually when it's like the fishing or whatever, he's like, I'm gonna go hang with the guys, but now he's like, my daughter's health is like really on the line here. Did it suck to take this kind of long to realize? Sure, but stepping in against probably his best friend in the area, big step, I think, for protecting his daughter.
Yeah. And
um
it's and then Bella goes and gets out of her wet clothes because she kind of stood out there for a while
yeah.
as it rained after the Jacob thing. And she goes, changes, and like she gets into bed and she's like, well, I mean, at this point, have nothing to lose. My emotional state is a wreck. I've just had to be reminded about the colons not once but twice now
Yep.
in a short amount of time. I'm just gonna, lay in bed and allow myself the luxury of thinking about Edward, even if it's the false memory of him speaking to her in the meadow with
Yeah.
Lawrence. Like, that's the memory she decides to hold on to, and she just like has a dream now where Jacob and Edward are abandoning her,
Yeah.
and then we get that's
Some
when I heard the noise.
Yep.
That must have wakened me. Although wakened, I don't think that's a word, but that's how she wrote it. Wakened me in the first place. Something sharp scraped along the length of my window with a high-pitched squeal, like fingernails against the glass. And that's how we end the chapter.
Yep. Some screechies. Wakened is a word. Um it's when something else wakes you up, because when you awake, it's you waking up. Like, but when someone is waking you up, it's weird. I don't know. It's just some also like words change, language evolves. Anyway, yeah, we're ending the chapter with scratches on the window. Dun dun dun. Who could that be?
I don't know.
I don't
One of us, both of us know. Knilly read ahead.
I skimmed some words, okay? I didn't like read. Will I
Only
forget
3 pages
until I
worth of
read?
skimming?
Yeah, no, skimming 3 pages worth is like reading 1 page. It's like the Spark Notes, and it's the bad Spark Notes where you even skim the Spark Notes, and then you kind of try and summarize it on an assignment, and it ends up being bad anyway. So what was it all for? Nothing. Read the full volume of text, folks, for full context. Anyway, W's and L's of the week.
W's and my L is only reading the 3 pages after this chapter.
Wow! Oh my god.
My Talon.
Thank you.
I think my L is just the men in this book.
Yeah, no, I
That's my
agree.
L.
That's my L too.
Literally
Mm.
a whole, and if you think about it, almost everyone we interact. There were Beckendale test lost 0.
Yeah.
We did not pass it in these chapters. There
No,
was
we did
not one girl she spoke to this entire 3 chapters.
Yup. And she like, and the one girl she might have spoken to be like, we can't come. Ben was the one to like be the interface there.
Yep.
So, yeah,
It's
no,
like
men.
yeah,
Boo.
men are my L. My W of the week. My W of the week is going to have to be that popcorn bucket. Really,
Oh,
the
yeah.
MVP.
I was gonna say
Shout
the
out to the
rabbit.
popcorn bucket. Oh, the
Rabbit's
rabbit.
my
Yeah,
W
yeah.
in general because it's just a good win. He finished the car. Yeah, I think I will agree on that front. Like, this chapter was just so infuriating with the way all like Billy's behavior too. Like, Jacobs only gets like a minor pass because he is going through like literal physical change. So like he's dealing with being a werewolf for the first time, I guess.
I mean, you don't know. You know what's happening.
I mean, I don't know what's happening, but I have a highly educated opinion on what I think is happening. So he's dealing with some physical, metaphysical, super nonsense, monster of the week stuff.
I do have a question for you though.
Oh, yeah.
Before we read the next set of chapters.
Sure.
Since obviously you know that there are quote unquote werewolves in the story.
Yeah.
We talked about what you thought the vampires were going to be like in this story. What do you think the werewolves are going to be like in this story?
Oh, like their power set and all that kind of stuff. Sure. So like, I think by all the technicalities, like we're calling them werewolves, but they're not traditional werewolves because I think for the Quilut, they're more like just general shapeshifters, right?
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if they can change into anything else, but aside from wolves, but I don't know if they're gonna have the involuntary transforming like werewolves do with the moon, if we're gonna go to like super like traditional route that way, because they seemed very much assuming that the 5 wolves that chased Laurent off are Sam, Yulie, and gang, and with including Jacob, they seem to be pretty much in control of their like, or enough control that they don't have to be on instinct to just hunt, right? They have a target and they're going after it. So werewolves that are involuntarily transforming for the moon, I don't think that's going to be a thing. And usually they also tend to go on a rage and rampage, or if they have enough intelligence in that form, in some stories they end up just hiding away from society so they don't hurt anybody. So I definitely think there's that control. They seem to be dire wolves, which are like big wolves, so that's pretty cool. I don't know. I don't really know what else is different. Maybe they have like telepathy and they chose not to speak in that moment. I'm gonna add that in because the vampires can have a couple of cool extra things like the vibe checking and the mind reading, and the weird and like being an oracle essentially. Then I feel like the especially because like with like indigenous culture being so much more connected to the land in general, I feel like that can kind of play a part here. So I mean, to put it in like TTRPG and Dungeons and Dragons terms, like a speak with trees and things in order for better tracking and stuff like that. I feel anything like, I think like a higher attunement with nature could be good. I mean, they'll obviously have all the heightened senses of like canines, smell, like hearing, all of that, which the vampires also do. They also have that. So like they're on even playing fields there. I wonder if they will have super speed. They seem to have confidence being able to chase a Laurent. So, and being bigger wolves, they can also just be faster. So I feel that. But yeah, I guess the only other thing is that since there's 5 of them, And I guess this also is like different from coven to coven for vampires, but with wolves, they hunt in packs and they probably have really good like pack tactics. So they probably will also just have numbers and all of that, and maybe a little bit more like of a synergistic like fighting, chasing, hunting, whatever it is, because they seem to be on the outside, again, making the assumption this is Sam Yulian gang. They're pretty tight knit. Like once you're in with that crowd, like that's like who you're rolling with, and then they seem to be getting stuff done when it comes to like the community stuff, right? Like Charlie likes their presence, so they obviously work well together as a team once they're in the team. When you're outside of the team, it's not so great because like you don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Communication, not one of their skills.
And as my final question, because a lot of these are going to be answered in the next few chapters, is what do you think the correlation then is between the hikers, the bears, and everything that so far, all the hints we've gotten about missing hikers, sightings of bears, etc. Even like the more gory scene that Charlie mentioned in the last chapter.
Yeah, I wonder if there's actually more vampires in the area than like the Cullens have let on or knew about, or like there's now that the Cullens aren't around, it's been higher amount, and that the Quilutes with they're hunting vampires essentially. Now how that relates to Charlie's workload, no idea. It seems like it's not really working out for them because he seems to be like trying to figure out all of that. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. That's a little bit of a mystery for me. My other guess is that it's Victoria. Like Victoria's messing with the natural balance of things here, and I wonder if like Billy and their tribe at the res are trying to figure it out what's going on and aid in a voluntary effort with, Forks police, since, Billy and Charlie are friends and all of that stuff and all of that. So I think it's kind of in that realm that like Victoria and or other vampires are probably to blame here. And then we might see this more, the actual side of vampires that Edward kept warning Bella about. So that's kind of where I'm at here. I also have like another interesting theory. And I don't know. And like, I wonder if at a certain point for the wolf ability, if it goes away over some time, and like if Billy used to have these powers, but it is kind of one of those things that drains at your main, unlike vampires where you're just kind of strong all the time, you have a life force, all you gotta do is feed yourself with blood. That this like being a shapeshifter, a werewolf, shapeshifter, I'm gonna call them werewolves from now on. I know that they're not actually werewolves, but like the werewolf powers drains your like from your life force essentially, and then like Billy has been left disabled in a wheelchair after like his years of, I don't know, quote unquote serving as a werewolf.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not really like married to that idea, but it could be interesting in terms of like the lore of that. And maybe that's also why like Jacob feels so defeated in like that this is his fate. And that like that's why he's finding solace in like Sam Yulee, and everyone's looking to Sam Yulee because like he's the next. He seems to be the one of the older of that generation of the Quilut in that tribe. So I imagine Billy is probably looking to pass the torch on, even though it's like, he's the elder and he's still technically in charge, but they always look to Sam Yulee, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I don't know. Because I also want to know, like, Bella, what the hell did the Cullens actually do aside from like, the old story? Like, is it just he's blaming vampires, or is he blaming the Cullens is kind of what I'm trying to also figure out. So, like, and how far is this grudge? Is the grudge very recent, like, since the Cullens came by? Or is the grudge, like, even deeper and it's just, like, vampires in general?
Well, I mean, they told us the story, or at least the one story that the Quileutes had, which is how Bella realized they were vampires.
Yeah.
About...
that, like, it's pretty much like they've been there the whole time.
Yeah, and it's like they have the tree or whatever between them. So that's like one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's all I want, because I know a lot of these questions are going to be answered in the next few chapters, if not this next reading session, but further on. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to get like a baseline with you that we can
for
compare
sure.
to. And so the viewers and I know
We can,
where like you're at right now.
yeah, we can
With
roll it back and then see what actually happened. None of it will be
yeah.
true. I have no idea.
Uh,
I don't know.
but what were
Yeah.
your did you give your W?
My W was the rabbit. My L is
The
also
rabbit.
men.
I like it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
here for
yeah.
it. Fuck
So
them
yeah,
kids.
if you also want to like voice your opinions, you can do that down in the YouTube comments, or you can join us on Discord or add us on Twitter. You can join the Knilly Online Discord if you're watching this on YouTube, or even if you have a podcast, you can find it in the descriptions of the episodes. You can join us on Knilly Online Discord to discuss the episode or ask questions after the show. If you're hanging out with us live on Twitch for the recording, this happens on Wednesdays around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can also find the link to my Discord and all that with various Twitch commands. This recording and past episodes can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, where all your podcasts are found. Just look up Knilly and Pb podcast. New episodes go up on the Friday after recording. Be sure, if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit the bell for notifications and hit subscribe and jump in the comments and all of that. Yeah. Anything you want to add, PB?
No. Just
Great.
enjoy the story, and I hope you're reading along with us, because I'm excited to see how the rest of this pans out. And also, add us if you want Knilly to bring on her RPing friend.
No, don't do that, because I will not do that no matter how many times you add notifications into my inbox. I will ignore them wholeheartedly. For those that are reading along, the next chapters are going to be 12 through 14, and it'll be going on next week on the 14th. Wednesday. So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out, listening, and discovering how mine and PB's methods of communication when it comes to armrests are.
Yep. See you on the internet, guys.
Bye.
Bye.